Oh, and I should have pinned myself. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to share my screen in a minute anyway. As it is, you all get to see the lovely faces of all of the attendees who are here on time. Awesome. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining me here at the moment, and those of you who are watching the replay. I know a bunch of you could not make it at this time. So I said, but there's going to be a replay. You can always watch the recording. And you said, okay, then I'll register. So glad that you are here. Let's go ahead and dive right in, and I'll start sharing my screen, and we can go straight into, come on, the slideshow mode. So this is Who Are You Blogging For? Because it is the most important part of any content marketing strategy, any marketing strategy, really. It's all about who is it for? I see so many people making this mistake of, a lot of people write about what they want to write about because it's interesting to them, or they just learned something, or they want to talk about something. And no one actually cares because they have not bothered to think about their audience first and foremost. So I did call this Who Are You Blogging For? Because blogging is my sweet spot. This is something you should consider with every single piece of content you create, including your logo, including your mission statement, your about page, your all of the pages on your website, your newsletter, your every social media post, videos, webinars, all need to be targeted to a specific audience. So think of this first and foremost. So how do we figure out who we're blogging for? Before we get into that, who am I? Why the heck should you care what I have to say? So I majored in English and psychology, for those of you who don't know. Turned out to be the perfect degree for what I'm doing now. Had no clue this was an option, thought I wanted to work in publishing. Graduated in 2009 when the economy said, haha, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I ended up answering phones for a few years because it was the only job I could get where they would actually pay me. Found myself between jobs at one point, and my roommate at the time, her dad, who was an attorney, was awesome and offered to give me stuff to do around his office until I got back on my feet. And one of the things he needed was someone to write blog posts for his law firm. And he knew I had a strong writing background, so he offered me the gig. And I was like, what? I can get paid to write? Seriously? Yeah, sign me up. So I jumped at that chance and started writing for him, and then for an associate of his, and then for some friends of mine. And it just kept growing from there. I did eventually get another day job, which again was just answering phones. It was a job, it was not a career, and kept writing on the side. And it kept growing to the point where I could not do both anymore. So I was able to take the job full time and leave the day job and take this as my new full-time gig, which I have been loving. And while I started out just kind of writing about whatever for this law firm, that was way back, gosh, like 12 years ago now that I started. And it was so much easier to just create content and put it out there. And as long as you did it on a regular basis, you would get results. Awesome. That's not the case anymore. It has gotten much more competitive. So I have had to up my game and learn about SEO and marketing strategy and who my target audience is and who my clients' target audience is, so that the content that I write for them can be as effective as possible. So now that you know who I am, why you should care, let's talk about goals. So first and foremost, every piece of content that you create needs to have a goal. That means something you want them to do once they're done reading. Again, I'm using the example of blog posts. It is not always going to be the blog post. It could be a video. It could be a podcast episode even. Any marketing content you are creating for your business needs to follow all of these rules and have a goal. That means you need to figure out where they are in the buyer journey with each piece of content that they encounter, so that you can lead them to that next step in the buyer journey. Another common mistake that I see people making is their call to action is always just, schedule a consultation, let's talk, here's the buy button, here's what you need to do to hire me, right? They're not always ready for that. In your blog post, in a video, even in a webinar, it's kind of like proposing on the first date, right? They're not ready to buy yet. And if you go straight for that ask, they're just going to back off. Instead, figure out Is it an informational blog post? Is it something that someone would look for when they're just starting to learn about your industry? In which case, maybe they want more information. Maybe they want to read some of your other blog posts. Maybe they want to follow you on social media or sign up for your newsletter. Make sure that call to action is really strong. And in order to do that, you need to know what your target audience's goals are and where they are in the buyer journey when they encounter you. So, putting together a profile. These are all of the things that you need when you put together your customer profile. Marketing persona is another word for it. There are a bunch of words for it. They all mean the same thing, right? Who is your target audience? Who's your ideal client? Who is it that you are targeting? First and foremost, give them a name and a photo. It could be a stock photo. For those of you who are aware, yes, this is Ernest Hemingway. It was not just a random photo. It was just a photo that I found on my computer. I was like, this will work. Ernest Hemingway won't care if I use his photo in this. So make sure it could be a drawing. It could be a stock photo. It could be a photo of someone you know in real life who reminds you of your ideal client and is actually, someone that to you represents your ideal client, your target audience. But what the photo is, the format is, doesn't matter as much as the fact that you have a photo or a drawing, something that humanizes them for you. So you are thinking of a specific person, because we don't think very well in groups as people. When we think about groups, we tend to generalize and we're not really thinking about them as people. So if you can get as many of those qualities as you can into one person and think of them as a person, then you're going to be much more effective. So get the photo and the name. Again, I made up the name John Smith just because it's easy, but don't give them like an alias type name. Give them a name that, again, to you represents your ideal client. In general, we have one male, one female. You might have more than that, especially with more and more people identifying as non-binary. You might want a specific non-binary marketing persona as well. That's up to you, but just know that you got to do this more than once. That's the bad news. It's not really one and done. What are their goals, their dreams, their motivations? You need to know this so that in your content, you can paint that picture for them. Once I solve this problem for you, this is what it's going to look like. So I use this image of Cinderella at the ball because this is the example that I use most often is, well, she's not at the ball yet, but she's getting there, right? What is that? Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me in a good way moment look like for them. So know what that looks like and be able to paint up that picture for them in the content you're creating for them. What is their personality like? If you can put it in an emoji or a string of emojis, again, it's not just an emotion. It should be something that represents who they are on a regular basis. This can help you identify, like, because some more extroverted personalities are not going to be on social media. They're going to be at in-person events, meeting people. They're going to be on webinars. The intellectual types are on the webinars. They're reading the blog posts. They're listening to the podcast. They're doing all these things to educate themselves. The more introverted types, you might have to try a little harder to reach those, because we do like, as an introvert myself, I can say we do like pulling back and just kind of pulling up. So you might have to try a little harder to reach those. So knowing what their personality is like can give you a much better idea as to what is the best way to reach them. Where are they hanging out? What types of content are they consuming? As well as the language that you're going to end up using. What language resonates with them? What's going to turn them off? Demographics, this is your general, your age, your race, your gender, where they live approximately. You don't have to give them you don't have to know their exact address, but know approximately where they live. Is it urban? Is it rural? Is it West Coast? Is it East Coast? I'm here in the Midwest. Are they in the Midwest? Are they not even in America at all? Maybe they're somewhere else. Having a good idea of those demographics is, again, really basic information. So have that set out at least. And again, you can have multiple personas to cover the different things. You can have one for a white person and one for a Black person and one for an Asian person, whatever your demographics, whatever fits your demographics. If that is a significant part of your market, then absolutely go for it. Like I said, at least one male, one female tends to work for most people, unless for some reason you're only serving men or you're only serving women, in which case you only need one for that gender, but you might need more for race, income, language. Even some people serve people who speak different languages. So that's another thing that you're going to have to take into account. Language also affects culture. So that's another thing you're going to have to take into account. So knowing all of these things can help you, again, build that profile and get to understand your people on a really intimate basis. Who's their boss? So this is more relevant to those of us in the B2B world, right? Are you talking to the person who is the decision maker, or do they need to go in and check with their boss and get approval for funding or whatever it may be? This does not always account or connect with B2B. A lot of the professional services industries that I tend to work for, the lawyers, the finance people, they're not B2B technically, but they operate a lot like a B2B in that usually there is someone else making a buying decision with them. Maybe they have to check in with their spouse. Maybe they and their spouse are making this decision together, in which case you have to take that into account with your audience as well and the content you're creating for them. Make sure your content is resonating with both of them instead of, again, if you're just targeting the one person and not everyone who's involved in this buying decision, your content is not going to be as effective. So make sure you have a really clear idea of who that other person is in the buying decision, if there is another person in the buying decision. Another great example I like to use is anyone selling to kids. If it's a toy or something that you want your kids to buy, or your demographic is kids, usually it's the parent who's making the buying decision, right? So you gotta also make sure that it resonates with the parents, and the parents are gonna agree to buy this for their kids. So those are some other things to think about, in addition to not only who's your target audience, but where are we, who else is involved in the buying decision. What are their pain points? This should be front and center of everything that you create. Is what is it that's driving them to you in the first place? Whether it's, again, blogging is a great example because a lot of people will Google stuff to find an answer to their problem. So you have to know what that problem is. It should ideally be the problem you are solving for them. Depending on the problem, that can be really broad. Maybe what they're looking for is a solution to a symptom, and you're like, well, I mean, this is the symptom, and I know you're looking for this, but what's really causing that is this problem over here. So know that about them. Know that there's this specific symptom that makes them go, ouch, how do I solve this? And then once you attract them and get them to your website, your blog, your video, whatever, then you can go into, well, this is why you're experiencing this, and then this is how we solve for it. So always, always know your pain points. It is so important to, I mean, you don't want to focus on it too much. You don't want to scare them off, but you do want to let them know that you understand their pain, because we want to work with people we know, like, and trust. And we are going to trust someone who says, hey, I know what you're going through. I know what that feels like, and I have a solution for it. So empathy, that's a good way of putting it. You come at it with empathy. What is their history? I brought up this fun photo because it made me laugh. Were they the nerd in school? Were they the popular kid in school? You don't have to go all the way back to school. It could be, what is their work history? How did they find their way into this position? How did they meet their spouse? Maybe depending on what you're providing, it's really important to know where they're coming from and where their spouse is coming from, especially if you are providing, let's say, financial services or financial coaching for newlyweds. You have to know what their history is like as a couple, as well as what each of their histories is like and what their relation to money is, so that you can provide a package that works well for both of them as individuals and as a couple. So know their history. So we have all this great information that we need on our target audience. That's awesome. How do we get this information? I always start with who's your favorite client, especially if you've been in business for a while. Yes, we all have favorite clients. I know we don't like to admit it. We don't have to tell the other clients that we have a favorite. but we know in our heart of hearts, there are some people we like working with and some people, I mean, they're okay to work with, but you're not like super excited to work with them. So who are the people that you're super excited to work with? Start there. Start filling out this information based on those people and their all of their information. Again, name, background, demographics, identifiers, goals, blah, 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 right? If you are new in business, or if you maybe you have some clients and you're like, yeah, they're not that great. I would like something better. Start by social media. This is my very favorite for doing research because there is so much information out here, and it's totally free. So, first and foremost, if you are already on social media and you've been on there for a while, who's following you? Who's connecting with you? Who's responding? Who's engaging with your content and like really engaging, not just like, hey, great post, kind of engaging. That doesn't really count, right? Who's actually posting thoughtful comments onto your content on social media? That is what we are looking for. Once you find those people, take a closer look at their profile, take a look at the other things they're posting about, as well as the other accounts that they're following, because that will give you an idea of their hobbies and interests, which I just realized is something that I forgot to include in the marketing persona. You need an idea of what their hobbies and interests are. So, hobbies and interests, again, what types of content are they consuming? Are they sharing videos? Are they sharing podcast episodes? Are they sharing blog posts? Are they sharing articles from a specific publication? Knowing all those can help you fill out that information on your target audience and their demographics and all of the things you need to know. If you are not active on social media, if you don't have a lot of followers, or again, your followers are not giving you a whole lot and you're trying to expand your field, look at your competitors. Who's following them on social media? First of all, which social media channels are they on? Which social media channels are they getting the most traction on? Because that can also give you a lot of information as to who your target audience is, what they're like, because some people gravitate more towards Twitter, which is now X. Some people gravitate towards LinkedIn or Facebook or Pinterest, right? So knowing where they're more likely to be, gives you an idea of where you should go. That also gives you an idea of the kinds of content that your target audience is looking for. So first and foremost, where are they on social media? Where are they getting the best results on social media? And then again, who else on social media is following your target audience, your competitors? Take a look at those followers, take a look at their profiles. Again, see what they're posting about, see what other accounts they're following so that you can get all that juicy information on them. So social media is your friend, both in terms of content distribution and in terms of research. What's your competition posting? So I talked about this already, spying on the competition, seeing what they're up to, and seeing what they're posting, because if they're talking about specific topics, there's probably a reason for that. It's probably because they've done their research on their target audience and they're saying that people who are looking for information in this area are looking for these specific topics, these specific types of content. So check them out, see what they're doing. Don't copy them. Don't copy and paste their content, but you can reverse engineer their strategy, especially if it's working for them. If you see that they're getting results and a lot of engagement on their content, cover the same topics, cover similar topics, cover related topics. And who's following your competition? Again, I did talk about this. Who's following the leader, right? First of all, who are the leaders? That's another thing you can look at, not just your competition, but your, most competitive of your competition. Who are the people who are really following, who are really have a lot of followers and have really established themselves as thought leaders in your industry? And again, what are they doing? What can you do to kind of get ahead of them? And that's it. That's everything that I have for you today. So if you are ready, you've got your ideal client, you're ready. I know you're not ready right this minute. You're going to have to take a minute to process everything that I said. I know I threw a lot of information at you, and you're going to have to go ahead and fill out do the research, fill out your marketing persona. But once you're done with all that, please do feel free to reach out to me. You've got my cell, my email, and that is my calendar link right there. So that is it. I will go ahead and stop the recording. So those of you watching the recording, You also have all access to all this information in the description of the video, and you should hopefully know how to reach me. So thanks so much for watching.